Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well and having a fantastic week. Today's video is all about some of the most common mistakes that bird owners make. Now this isn't a video to try and bash anyone or make anyone feel bad, it's all about education, and David and I have definitely made some of these mistakes in the past, but I just want to give you some ideas of how you can improve your parrot care in case you're making some of these very common mistakes for keeping birds. So I suppose we better get started. The boys are really fidgety, of course it's a typical video. So let's get straight into it. So the first and most common mistake that people make is not doing enough research. Now, I won't spend too long on this. I've got lots of content on my channel if you're considering getting a bird, a starter bird, whether you get a rescue or from a breeder, anything like that. But people just don't do enough research. And also, you can do loads of research online and from books, from YouTube, but it just doesn't compare to actually having a bird in real life. So if you can have the opportunity to go and see birds, feel what it's like to do food prep every day, whether that's volunteering at a rescue centre, at a wildlife park, anything like that, just getting the actual real experience of what it's like to own birds, as well as doing plenty of research on YouTube and on the internet. Chip's just going crazy. That can really prepare you and set you up for a better start with your bird, but you do need to actually do some research on what it's like to own a bird, the realities of owning birds, because it's not simple, it's not easy, and hopefully that will set you up for success and prepare you for life with birds. The next common mistake is not getting your birds used to travel carriers before you need to use them to, for example, take them to go to the vet or to move house. And this is something that David and I are guilty of. We had a situation a while back where Chip was vomiting, which was obviously very scary. He's absolutely fine. He just had a little crop irritation, which we could treat at home, which was brilliant. But of course we needed to get them to the vet. And our birds weren't used to going in the travel carrier because we were focusing on other training. So when it came to put them into the travel carrier, they were having none of it. They were spooking, freaking out, which is making the whole situation so much more stressful. So we had to take them to the vets in a giant cage, which was a logistical nightmare. So I highly recommend, if you have a travel carrier at home, start the training now, or if you don't, then go and look for an appropriate travel carrier that you can buy now and then start the training so your birds are used to it when you need it. I'll show you the travel carrier that I've got now. So this is the one I have. It's from Northern Parrots. It's definitely a bit more pricier than some of the other travel carriers out there, but I spoke to my friends Paws, Claws and Feathers, and they recommended this one because it's absolutely huge. There's loads of space for both boys in there. It's really sturdy, really well made, and really secure as well. So I would highly recommend this one. It's from Northern Parrots, as I said, and you can find their link down in the description below. But I really like this one compared to some of the others. It makes birds feel a little bit safer as well because it's more enclosed, whereas sometimes when birds are really exposed, that could be quite scary. So yes, definitely get your birds used to travel carriers before you have to use them. Now, the next mistake that a lot of people make is not knowing where their closest avian vet is before they need them. Quite often I will get some distressed comments from people whose birds are unwell and they're saying, I don't know where my nearest avian vet is, can you help me? And whilst I'm always happy to help you guys, it is always better to know where your avian vet is before you actually need them. I have some resources down in the description for UK and USA vets, but if you are somewhere else in the world, I'm more than happy to help you. We've found vets in, India and France and all that kind of thing, so I can help you, but please don't wait until your bird is unwell to find your local avian vet. And don't just take the list's word for it. Contact the vets that you think has an avian vet and just double check that they definitely have one. And just be really well prepared, because let me tell you, if you suddenly need to take your bird to the vet, it's an extremely stressful experience and you don't want to be thrashing about on Google trying to find a vet last minute. The next mistake is having unrealistic expectations from your bird. Just because you've seen Alex the honking bird making adorable noises and, knocking his beak on things doesn't mean that your bird is going to do that as well. Just because Pickles P liked cuddles the second we got her doesn't mean that your conure is going to enjoy squishes the second you get them. So every bird is different. Also, for example, my lovely friends Paws, Claws and Feathers, their birds are incredible at singing. They all sing together, which I'll show you now. But our birds like to imitate the smoke alarm or do a demon scream, which is not quite as beautiful and Instagram worthy as the Paws Claws guys. So you can't expect that your bird that you're getting is going to be like ones that you see on social media, and actually having those expectations really sets your bird up to fail. So just bear that in mind. If you're getting a bird, make sure you're getting it for the right reasons and not because you've seen another bird that looks pretty cute and you want them to do the same thing. Now, a mistake I see all the time, unfortunately, even with very experienced bird owners, are not recognising lots of the common dangers in your household. I have got 2 videos on this. Again, I'll leave them down below so you can go and check out some of the most common dangers in your household. But there are some things that even people who have had birds for ages just don't realise. For example, the self-cleaning feature on an oven. It's not something we really have in the UK, but in the US I hear that's a big thing. And that is exceptionally dangerous for your bird, but it might not be something you thought about before. Obviously, you may have heard of things like avocado being dangerous, or candles, air fresheners, Teflon, non-stick coating, all those different things. But there are actually loads and loads of different things that are dangerous for your birds. So make sure you're well educated. Even if you've got birds already, just go and take a peek at my videos, go and have a look at some lists online, because there may be some things you weren't aware of, and that can prevent lots of distress. Next up is your bird not getting enough exercise. Now, of course, not every bird can be free-flighted. It's not necessarily appropriate for certain people. It doesn't meet a lot of people's lifestyles. However, you can still give your birds loads of exercise if they just stay indoors, or if you have an outside aviary. You can do recall training, stationing training, again a video that I have, all the links will be down in the description. But you can do loads of flight training, you can do loops. It's something that we do with all of our birds, even with Olive, who's actually molting out her clipped feathers from when she was in a previous home. So she is absolutely raring to go with flying, and is really enjoying the process of learning. But you can still get loads of exercise for your birds indoors, and they do need it. It does keep them nice and healthy, it's mentally stimulating. So make sure you are making an active effort every single day to give your birds exercise, whether that's flight training, or they're skittering around on the floor, or climbing around. Make sure they're getting lots of that every single day. The next mistake is very easily made, I do see it a lot, and that is buying the wrong toy materials for your birds. Now, I'm not just talking about things like plastic, which you probably are aware of if you've watched some of my previous videos, but I'm talking about the wood hardness as well. For example, if you know my flock, you know I've got a flock of little beaks, and little beaks find it really hard to chew things like this. Now, of course, I don't really have many toys that are unsuitable, but we've got this toy as like a complete package, and I think it's really fun. But this block here is really thick wood, and it's very hard wood as well. And while they might want to chip away at it, birds can be a little bit lazy, and if the wood's too hard, they're probably not going to want to chew it, and then the toy's just going to be sat there not really serving a purpose, because toys, of course, as we said before, should be really shreddable and easy to destroy. Now, something like this is far more appropriate for birds like cockatiels and conures, which I have. It's great for budgies as well, lovebirds, any kind of small birds, but I think bigger birds would like it too. It's got finger traps on there, which are a firm favourite with all of my birds. They love destroying these. It's got palm leaves and lots of different textures and colours on there as well. This is a great toy because it's really soft to shred. Things that are really hard to shred, not going to get used. Your bird's not going to be enriched, mentally stimulated, or busy. This is going to keep your bird really busy, and there's loads of opportunities to hide little treats in there too. The next mistake is not utilising the entire space and length of the cage. This is something that David spoke about in one of his recent videos, which is the truth about parrot cages. Again, link is down in the description. And a lot of people just put toys and perches at the top part of their cage and completely leave out all of the bottom, and that actually takes away a huge opportunity for exercise and for foraging. As you may know if you've watched my previous videos, all of our birds have substrate at the base of their cages. We use something called Easy Chick, and that is great because it's so easy to keep clean, and it also provides a great foraging opportunity all at the base of the cage. We put toys and perches down there too, and some people say, well, my bird doesn't like going down there, and that is quite normal, but you can train your bird to go down to the bottom of the cage, and then they can have so many more opportunities for toys, enrichment, exercise, and foraging as well. So that'll keep your bird really, really busy. So make sure you're using the entire part of the cage, because you could have the biggest cage you could possibly afford, but if your bird's only using the top half of it, that's all they see their cage as. So make sure you're utilising as much of that space as possible, and of course use training as well if your birds are a little bit nervous about going down there. What do you want? Do you want squidges? Do you want cuddles? Next point leads on to the kind of expectations point, which is not treating every bird as an individual. As you may know, I've got 2 cockatiels and 3 conures, and they're all very individual, even within the same species. So I have 3 green cheek conures, all different colour variations, but they're all very different. Pickles is really, really chilled out. She loves cuddles. Nothing really spooks her apart from some birds flying close to the window. She's generally really calm and just loves her scritches. Whereas Olive is quite highly strung. She's very easily overstimulated, and that is because of her background and where we rescued her from, and we are working really hard on that. And then you've got Scampy, who is just a ball of energy, and he needs so much more mental stimulation and exercise than any of our other birds. And that's fine because every bird is an individual, but we work really hard to try and get his energy levels out. We play hide and seek with him around the house, and he flies around trying to find us. Lots of training and games just to try and get that energy level out of him, otherwise he'll have it all pent up and then he'll start being frustrated, which we obviously don't want. So we work really hard with that. Not that we don't mentally stimulate and exercise our other birds, but we're just really conscious of the different levels of each bird and different birds' needs as well. The next mistake is assuming that clipping your bird's wings is going to solve all of its problems, whether they're behavioural, or because you want to take it outside, or because you want to have the windows open. Now, let me tell you, clipping does not benefit your bird. I'm not even going to go into it. My friends, again, Paul's Claws and Feathers, who get loads of shout outs in the video because they're awesome. They made this brilliant video with loads of YouTubers, including myself, people like Mikey the Macaw, Bogey the Galah, Ellen the Birds, of course, firm favourites. And we talked all about the different aspects of clipping, and I would highly recommend going and watching that video. I do mention it a lot, but I really feel like as many people as possible should see this video and learn a little bit more about what clipping can and can't do for your bird. Another mistake that people make quite often is not giving your birds enough sleep, especially as the days get lighter. It can be difficult to keep your home darker, but your bird does need 12 hours of uninterrupted sleep every single night, and that's not throwing a cover over it so you can continue watching, you know, TV in the same room. They do need to be in a quiet place and preferably undisturbed. I know there are going to be some different situations where, you know, birds have to be kept in people's bedrooms or things like that, but just be really mindful and conscious of being quiet around your birds and allowing them to get that uninterrupted sleep, because if they don't, they're going to get hormonal, and that is already a challenge at this time of year. We don't want to add to it by not allowing our birds to have the right amount of sleep. The next mistake that people make is not weighing their birds regularly enough. So we have our weighing scales here. We've got a little T-perch on top. It can be quite easy to make this out of dowel if you have the tools to do so. But we have our scales. All of our birds are trained to go on there, and we weigh them a couple of times a week. And it's just a really great way of getting a baseline idea of how much your bird weighs. And then you can monitor, because one of the easiest ways to see if your bird is getting on well is a change in weight. Now, we track all of our birds' weights on the Bird Tricks app. Again, I've talked about this before. It's a free app on the App Store, and we have all of our birds listed here, and we can monitor their weights and see how they're doing. The next mistake needs a bit of context, but as a kind of general statement, people who think that being bitten regularly is normal is not great, because you may be missing the signs that your bird is giving you for being uncomfortable when they're biting, and that can lead to some real communication problems where, for example, with Olive, where we've rescued her, in her previous home they quite clearly did not respect when she was uncomfortable and ignored all of those signs that birds give before they bite. So now she usually just goes straight for a bite, or there'll be a really subtle sign before she bites. So that's something that we're working on to try and encourage her, that if she's uncomfortable in a situation, it's okay to tell us, but you don't have to use your beak to do so. Now, of course, with conures, they are a little bit nippy as a species, and that's okay, but you don't want your bird to be breaking the skin regularly or lashing out and just grabbing onto your hands. There's usually going to be a reason why. They could be hormonal, they could be uncomfortable with something, they need more desensitization. There are so many different reasons why your bird might be biting all the time, but it's not something you want to make a habit out of. So bear that in mind, because it shouldn't be a regular occurrence to be bitten quite aggressively. The next one is again one I see quite often, which is not having a first aid kit prepared for your birds before you need it. I've got mine here. I've got unfiltered and unpasteurised apple cider vinegar, which is so important for any bird owner to have. I highly recommend you get yourself some of this. We use the Bragg's one, and all of these products are going to be listed on my Amazon store if you haven't checked it out already. Again, no pressure to do so, but if you want to go and have a look, you can see some of the recommendations I have for products for your birds that I personally use, or I would use. I wouldn't put anything on there that I thought was dangerous. So we have the apple cider vinegar. So I've got some products in here that I didn't mention in my previous video. For example, saline eye wash, which is so important because Pickles had an eye irritation a little while back. This was really, really useful. Also got some F10 germicidal barrier treatment for if your bird has a very minor kind of cut or graze. I've also got Guardian Angel, which is very similar to Ava Pro, which I've used before. Again, a really good sick bird supplement. So all of these things are super important. However, disclaimer, I'm not a vet. Please do not leave me comments about your bird being ill. I can't help you with that. You need to go and see an avian vet, like I mentioned previously. All of these things are for kind of emergency or very, very simple things that your birds might get into at home. But please, 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 if your bird is injured or sick, please contact an avian vet. And the final mistake is something I have received loads of comments on recently, which are people who buy unweaned baby birds to then wean at home themselves when they have no experience to do so. So obviously we all have to learn at some points, but getting an unweaned bird and then leaving me a comment saying, how do I hand feed my baby, is not going to be beneficial for you or your baby. You don't need to get an unweaned baby to bond with it. It's unnecessary, and it's better for the breeder to just completely wean your bird, and then you can have them at home and start the bonding process. But it's very easy to get it wrong. They can get burnt crop if the food is too hot, or they can get a crop irritation if you use the wrong kind of food for them. They can aspirate if you put the food down the wrong way. Sometimes their crops fill, and that is an emergency, and if you don't know how to deal with that, then again, lots of problems. But please do not get an unweaned baby bird if you have no experience whatsoever. And also, it's a sign of a really irresponsible breeder if they do give you an unweaned baby bird, because it's totally inappropriate. So those are some of the most common mistakes that people make with their birds. I haven't mentioned anything on diet, because I talk about diet all the time. I've got loads of content on diet and that kind of thing. But again, that's a huge thing. As I said, I'm not going to go into it today. But I wanted to cover some of these things you may not be aware of, things that are really important to prepare for, and just all-round mistakes. Again, some of which David and I have made. We are not saints, we're not perfect, but this channel is all about learning and bettering yourself so you can give your birds the best life possible. If you have anything to add, or you'd like to ask any questions, anything like that, please leave me a comment down below, as I'd love to speak to you. But from me and all of my flock, thank you so much for watching. I hope you're doing well. Take care and see you later.